I remember staring at the ceiling tiles in Dr. Patterson's examination room, counting the tiny perforations in each panel while I waited. 147 holes in the tile directly above me. I had switched doctors because my insurance changed, nothing more. I expected a routine annual checkup. What I got instead was the beginning of the end of my marriage. "Mrs. Chen, when did you have the ablation procedure done?" Dr. Patterson's voice cut through my counting. I turned my head to look at her. She was maybe 45, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, but her expression was troubled. "Ablation? I don't know what that is. I've never had anything like that done." She set down her tablet and pulled her rolling stool closer to the exam table. "Sarah, I need you to think carefully. Did your previous gynecologist ever recommend a procedure to reduce heavy bleeding? Maybe they called it something else?" "No. I had my appendix removed 6 years ago, but that's it. That was the only surgery I've ever had." Dr. Patterson was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I need to show you something. Can you sit up?" My hands shook slightly as I adjusted the paper gown and sat upright. She turned her laptop screen toward me, showing what looked like an ultrasound image. I had no idea what I was looking at. "This is your uterus," she explained, pointing to the screen. "And this scarring here, and throughout the entire endometrial lining, this is consistent with thermal ablation. Someone used heat energy to deliberately burn away the lining of your uterus. This doesn't happen naturally, and it certainly doesn't happen during an appendectomy." The room tilted slightly. "That's not possible. My husband is a gynecologist. He would have told me if something like that had happened." The look Dr. Patterson gave me made my stomach drop. It was pity mixed with concern, the kind of expression you give someone before delivering terrible news. "Who performed your appendectomy?" "My husband did. Well, he was on the surgical team. It was an emergency situation, and he was already at the hospital, so it made sense at the time." Even as I said the words, I heard how naive they sounded. "Sarah, I need to be very direct with you. The scarring I'm seeing is extensive and deliberate. This procedure has rendered you functionally infertile. Given that it wasn't documented in your medical history and you have no memory of consenting to it, we need to report this. But first, I need to run some additional tests. There's something else concerning me." "What else?" My voice came out as a whisper. "Your symptoms over the past few years, the chronic pelvic pain, the fatigue, the digestive issues you mentioned in your intake form. I want to test your blood for heavy metals and toxins. Some of your symptoms are consistent with chronic low-level poisoning." I actually laughed. It was a sharp, brittle sound that echoed wrong in the small room. "Poisoning? This is insane. You're saying my husband, a respected doctor, performed surgery on me without my consent and has been poisoning me? I'm saying the evidence suggests something very wrong has happened to you, and we need to find out what and why. Are you safe at home, Sarah?" That question changed everything. Was I safe? I thought about David, my husband of 12 years. David, who made me coffee every morning. David, who insisted on managing my vitamins and supplements because he wanted to make sure I stayed healthy. David, who had been so sympathetic about my mysterious health problems, who had run countless tests that never showed anything definitive. "I don't know," I admitted. Dr. Patterson reached out and squeezed my hand. "Here's what we're going to do. I'm ordering a full panel of tests today. I'm also going to request your complete surgical records from the hospital where your appendectomy was performed. In the meantime, I want you to consider whether you need a safe place to stay while we figure this out. I can connect you with resources if you need them." I left that appointment in a daze. Instead of going home, I drove to a coffee shop and sat in my car in the parking lot. My phone buzzed with a text from David. "How was your appointment? Hope everything checked out fine." I stared at those words for a long time. How many times over the years had he asked about my health appointments? How many times had I shared every detail with him, trusting him completely? I didn't respond. Instead, I called my best friend Rachel. "Sarah, what's wrong? You sound terrible. Can I come over? I need to talk to someone, and I can't go home right now." Rachel lived 20 minutes away. By the time I pulled into her driveway, she was already standing on her front porch, concern written all over her face. I fell apart the moment she wrapped her arms around me. Inside, over cups of tea that went cold while I talked, I told her everything Dr. Patterson had said. Rachel listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each detail. "You need a lawyer," she said when I finally stopped talking. "Not tomorrow. Today. Right now. I don't even know if any of this is true. Maybe Dr. Patterson is wrong. Maybe there's an explanation." "Sarah, listen to yourself. You're making excuses for a man who might have sterilized you without your knowledge. Promise me you won't go home until you talk to a lawyer. Promise me you won't eat or drink anything he gives you." The thought of my own husband poisoning me seemed ludicrous, but so did unauthorized surgery. And when I really thought about it, when did my health problems start? Right after that appendectomy, and the vitamins David insisted I take every day? I had started those around the same time. Rachel pulled out her phone. "My cousin is a family law attorney. She's not taking new clients, but she'll know who to refer you to. Let me call her." Within 2 hours, I was sitting in the office of Margaret Walsh, attorney at law. She was maybe 60, with steel gray hair and the sharp eyes of someone who had seen every variation of human cruelty. "I'm going to be very direct with you, Sarah," she said after I finished explaining. "If what your new doctor suspects is true, your husband hasn't just violated medical ethics. He's committed assault, possibly attempted murder. You're not just looking at divorce. You're looking at criminal charges. But I don't have proof, just Dr. Patterson's opinion. We'll get proof. First, we need to secure your safety and preserve evidence. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? I can stay with Rachel." "Good. Don't go home except with police escort to collect your things. Second, we need your complete medical records, not just from your husband, but from the hospital. Third, we need to document everything. Every symptom, every medication, every supplement. Do you still have the vitamins he's been giving you?" "Yes, at the house. We'll get those tested. Now, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer. Has your husband been behaving differently? Any signs of an affair? Unexplained absences? Financial irregularities?" I opened my mouth to say no, then stopped. Actually, yes. David had been traveling more for medical conferences over the past 3 years. He had started a new investment account I wasn't involved in. And his phone, which used to be casually available, now required a fingerprint to unlock. "Maybe," I said slowly. But I trusted him. I never thought to question any of it. Margaret nodded like this was exactly what she expected. "Here's what I need you to do. Don't confront him. Don't let him know you suspect anything. We need time to build a case. Can you do that?" Could I go home and look my husband in the face, knowing what I suspected? Could I pretend everything was normal? "I don't think I can go back there," I whispered. "Then don't. We'll handle this properly. I'm going to recommend you file for a restraining order and get police involved today. If there's even a chance he's been poisoning you, waiting is dangerous." The next 72 hours were a blur. With Margaret's help and Dr. Patterson's medical evidence, I obtained an emergency restraining order. Police accompanied me to the house to collect my belongings. David wasn't home, thank God. I grabbed clothes, important documents, my laptop, and the bottle of supplements from the bathroom cabinet. Rachel had converted her guest room into a sanctuary for me. I barely remember those first few days. Dr. Patterson's blood tests came back showing elevated levels of arsenic and lead. Not enough to kill me quickly, but more than enough to make me chronically ill over years of exposure. The supplements David had been giving me were sent to a lab. The results confirmed they were contaminated with heavy metals. Someone had carefully opened each capsule, added the poison, and resealed them. The craftsmanship was meticulous. Margaret worked with the police to obtain David's medical practice records, his hospital surgical records, and his financial statements. What emerged was a picture of systematic deception that made me physically ill. The surgical records showed that during my appendectomy, David had listed 2 procedures, appendix removal and endometrial ablation. But the consent form I had signed only mentioned the appendectomy. He had forged a second consent form with my signature and added it to my file. His financial records showed regular payments to someone named Jennifer Morrison, $1,500 a month for the past 3 years, plus a large down payment on a townhouse in her name. I stared at that name on the bank statement. Who is Jennifer Morrison? Margaret had already found out. She slid a printout across her desk. It was a professional headshot from a LinkedIn profile. Jennifer Morrison, medical device sales representative for SurgTech Solutions. She works for a company that supplies surgical equipment to hospitals, Margaret explained, including the thermal ablation devices used in endometrial procedures. According to her social media, she frequently attended the same medical conferences as your husband. I looked at the photo. She was younger than me, maybe 35, with perfect teeth and highlighted hair. She looked happy. She looked like someone who didn't know she was helping destroy another woman's life. Has she been helping him? I asked. We're investigating, but the timing is suspicious. The payments started shortly after your surgery. Either she knows what he did and he's paying her off, or she's the reason he did it. 2 weeks after that first appointment with Dr. Patterson, the police arrested David at his medical office. The charges were extensive: assault with intent to cause bodily harm, practicing medicine without consent, fraud, and attempted murder through poisoning. I watched the local news report from Rachel's couch, seeing my husband of 12 years in handcuffs, looking confused and angry. Part of me still couldn't believe this was real. His lawyer immediately started damage control, painting me as a vindictive wife trying to destroy a respected doctor's career. But the evidence was overwhelming. The contaminated supplements, the forged consent forms, the unexplained payments to Jennifer Morrison. Then investigators found the emails. David had been careless. He used his personal email to correspond with Jennifer, and he never deleted anything. The email chain went back 4 years, starting innocent enough with work-related questions about surgical equipment, then turning flirtatious, then explicit. But it was the emails from 3.5 years ago that made me vomit in Margaret's office trash can. When are you going to leave her? We've been talking about this for a year. David, I can't just leave. She'll take everything in the divorce. I need a better solution. Jennifer, what kind of solution? David, let me think about it. There are medical options, things that could make the situation resolve itself over time. Jennifer, I don't understand. David, you don't need to. Just trust me. In a few years we'll be together, and it won't cost me anything. The email thread continued, getting more explicit about his plans. He detailed how he could perform the ablation during another necessary surgery, how no one would question it. He explained how certain supplements, if contaminated over time, could create chronic health issues that might eventually prove fatal, and how, as her doctor, he could control the narrative. Jennifer's responses showed she knew exactly what he was planning. She even helped him order the contaminated supplements through her company's distribution network, disguising them as sample products. She's being charged as an accessory, Margaret told me. The prosecutor is offering her a deal if she testifies against David, but she's refusing so far. She thinks she loves him. I thought about that. This woman, this Jennifer Morrison, believed David loved her enough to commit murder for her. She had a 3-year-old daughter, according to the investigation. David had been playing father to this child while slowly killing me. The anger that hit me then was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was pure and clean and absolutely consuming. I want to testify, I told Margaret. At trial, I want to look at him and make sure he knows exactly what he took from me. The trial took place 9 months later. I had spent that time in therapy, rebuilding my life, and working with doctors to understand the full extent of the damage David had caused. The ablation had indeed rendered me infertile. The poisoning had caused permanent damage to my kidneys and liver. I would need monitoring for the rest of my life for potential cancer development. I had wanted children. David knew that. We had talked about starting a family someday, when his practice was more established. Now I understood why he kept delaying. He had already made sure it would never happen. The courtroom was packed. David's defense team tried everything. They claimed the ablation was medically necessary and I had consented but forgotten. They suggested the poisoning was accidental contamination from the supplement manufacturer. They painted me as a bitter wife, fabricating evidence. But the emails didn't lie. The forensic evidence didn't lie. Dr. Patterson's testimony was damning, clear, and unshakable. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the stand with my head high. I looked at David while I was sworn in. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. This was the man I had loved, the man I had trusted with my health, my body, my life. The prosecutor asked me to explain what my typical morning routine had been during our marriage. David always made my coffee, I said, my voice steady. He brought it to me in bed every morning. He said it was his way of showing love. He also managed all my vitamins and supplements. He said as a doctor, he knew exactly what I needed to stay healthy. And did you question this? No. He was my husband. He was a gynecologist. Why would I question someone who had dedicated his life to women's health? When did you first start experiencing symptoms of illness? About 6 months after my appendectomy. Fatigue, digestive problems, pelvic pain. David ran tests, but nothing showed up. He said it was probably stress. He said I was getting older and needed to take better care of myself. So I took the vitamins he gave me more religiously. The vitamins that were later found to contain arsenic and lead. Yes. The prosecutor then asked about our conversations about children. We talked about starting a family, I said. But David always had a reason to wait. His practice was too busy. We needed to save more money. We should travel first while we still could. I thought we had time. I didn't know he had already made sure we would never have children. I saw David flinch at that. Good. I wanted him to feel even a fraction of the pain he had caused me. Jennifer Morrison was called to testify. The prosecutor had finally convinced her to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. She looked terrified on the stand, makeup unable to hide the sleepless nights she'd been having. She confirmed the emails. She confirmed helping David obtain the contaminated supplements. She confirmed knowing his intentions. Did Dr. Chen tell you why he wanted to hurt his wife? The prosecutor asked. He said she was in the way, Jennifer answered quietly. He said if she just got sick enough naturally, no one would question it. He said doctors die from medical complications all the time, and as her physician, he could control everything. And you believed this was acceptable? I thought we were in love. Her voice broke. He told me we would get married as soon as he was free. He told me he was already emotionally divorced from her. I know it sounds stupid now, but I believed him. Did you ever consider telling Sarah Chen the truth? Jennifer looked at me for the first time. Her eyes were red. No. I'm sorry. No. I never did. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, their verdict was unanimous on all counts. Guilty. The sentencing hearing was 2 weeks later. The judge was a stern woman in her 60s who had clearly seen enough human depravity to be unmoved by David's lawyer's pleas for leniency. Dr. Chen, you violated every oath you took as a physician, she said. You used your medical knowledge not to heal but to harm. You betrayed your wife in the most fundamental way possible. You stole her ability to have children. You systematically poisoned her while pretending to care for her health. The cruelty of your actions is staggering. She sentenced him to 23 years in prison for attempted murder, assault, fraud, and medical malpractice. His medical license was permanently revoked. He was ordered to pay restitution for all my medical expenses, past and future, plus damages. Jennifer Morrison received 8 years for conspiracy and accessory to attempted murder. Her medical device sales career was over. Her daughter would grow up visiting her mother in prison. I felt no satisfaction when the gavel came down. Just emptiness, and then slowly, relief. It was over. I was free. The next few years were about healing. I sold the house David and I had shared and bought a small condo near the ocean. I changed careers, going back to school to become a patient advocate. If my experience could help other women recognize the signs of medical abuse, then maybe something good could come from this nightmare. I also met James. He ran a support group for survivors of domestic violence, which is what medical abuse is, really. Domestic violence with a scalpel and a prescription pad. James was kind and patient. He had his own scars, his own story of survival. We understood each other in ways that felt healing. I never did have biological children. That door was closed forever. But 3 years ago, I became a foster parent to a 15-year-old girl named Maya who had aged out of the system. Last year, I officially adopted her. She's 18 now, heading to college to study nursing. She wants to help people the way Dr. Patterson helped me. Sometimes Maya asks about my ex-husband, about what he did. I tell her the truth. That evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like someone who brings you coffee in bed. Sometimes it wears a white coat and calls itself healing. I also tell her about the good that came after. About Dr. Patterson, who could have dismissed my symptoms like so many doctors before her. About Margaret Walsh, who fought for justice. About Rachel, who gave me sanctuary. About James, who showed me I could trust again. I'm 65 now, looking back at the woman I was at 42. That woman who counted ceiling tiles while her world fell apart. That woman who discovered her husband had been trying to kill her for years. Part of me will always grieve for what was taken from me. The children I never had. The years of pain and fear. The innocence of believing marriage meant safety. But I also have something David could never take away. My voice. I speak at medical conferences now, teaching doctors how to recognize signs of abuse and coercion in their patients. I train patient advocates. I work with legislators on laws protecting patient rights and requiring second opinions for major procedures. Last month, I got a letter from a woman in Ohio. She had seen one of my presentations online. Her husband was also a doctor. She was experiencing mysterious symptoms. My story gave her the courage to get a second opinion. That second opinion may have saved her life. This is what survival looks like. Not just living through something terrible, but transforming it into something that protects others. David tried to erase me, to make me disappear slowly through sickness and pain. Instead, I became louder, stronger, more visible than ever. He's still in prison. He'll be 70 when he gets out, if he lives that long. His medical career is gone. His reputation is destroyed. Jennifer Morrison was released 2 years ago. According to people who keep track of these things, she moved to another state, changed her name, and works in retail. Her daughter is being raised by Jennifer's mother. As for me, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I have Maya. I have James. I have work that matters. I have Dr. Patterson's number saved in my phone, and we text occasionally. She always asks how I'm doing, if I'm staying healthy. I always tell her the truth. I'm more than surviving. I'm living, fully and completely. In a way David tried to steal from me but never could. And every morning, I make my own coffee. It's a small thing, but it matters. I decide what goes into my body. I control my own health care. I trust, but I also verify. I love James, but I keep my own medical records. I learned the hardest way possible that you can never outsource your safety to someone else, no matter how much you love them. If you're reading this and something feels wrong in your relationship, in your medical care, in your body, trust that feeling. Get a second opinion. Ask questions. Demand answers. Your life might depend on it. Mine did.